welcome to the fourth episode of 3D Crafts. What we're going to be doing today is only one craft because it is quite complicated and you can incorporate your pony club into this craft. I have done a horsey one and I've done just a normal one that you can adapt and get creative with. So what you're going to need today is some kitchen roll cut into small pieces. You could also use a polystyrene or a paper cup, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. You need some blank paper. I've already cut out on mine, but just a sheet of blank paper or scrap paper is fine. A pencil, some glue, just normal glue today. If you want to use liquid glue, that's absolutely fine, but normal glue will do the job. And some scissors. So that is what you're going to need today. Firstly, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be creating kitchen roll art, and it is absolutely beautiful, but it takes some time to get all the little parts cut out. So your first step today, step number one, is going to be to get a kitchen roll and cut it into sections. Now my sections are just over 5 centimeters. They're not very big at all, because you're going to need to work in the center of this, and it's easier to be able to stick your bits in if you can get into both sides. If it's too long, it's going to be really tricky to stick all the little bits inside the roll. Okay, so kitchen roll. If you don't have kitchen roll, I'm going to quickly show you a trick on how you can make this work with a paper cup. So I'm just going to move my laptop down. I'm sorry if it's a little bouncy. Just so that you can see the craft. Right, so if you don't have any kitchen roll, that's absolutely fine. You might have a paper cup, or maybe somebody has ordered coffee. Wash the cup out, make sure it's nice and clean, and then you can reuse it. So you just draw a very rough line around the end with your pencil. It may not draw on the paper, but that's absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be particularly neat, as long as it's just sort of an idea. Don't know if you can see it's got like an indentation because mine is polystyrene. And you're just careful with your scissors when you do this, but it's not very dangerous because it does go in quite easily. And you just cut around the edge of your cup. Don't worry about it getting little jagged ends on it, because you can fix that up when the end is out. So your cup, then you just fix up these little bits at the end. Your cup then has the same effect as your kitchen roll. So you can use either. This one, your cup might actually be even easier if you struggle to cut tiny little things, because you can make your silhouette, which is a black image, and I'm going to show you what that is in a minute. You can make that much bigger. So that's your first step, is to make sure that you have your toilet roll or your kitchen roll prepped, or your paper cup prepped. Step number one. Then what we're going to be looking at today is something called a silhouette. Now most of you will know what a silhouette is, but a silhouette is just a black image, and I'm going to put up some pictures over here so that you can see what they look like. It is just a plain black image created by light, which is usually the shadow of a picture. So you don't need too much detail on your picture, but you do need to make sure you've got enough for it to look effective. So today, I'm going to show you the steps, and what I found easiest, you might find another method to this, but what I found easiest was my step one. I traced around my kitchen roll so that I got an idea of how big it was. The second step is I found an image that I really liked from the internet, a silhouette, and I traced it off my computer. Now please be careful when you're doing this, because you need to press really softly on your computer. Don't press too hard. And I just got a very rough outline. It doesn't have to be perfect. And once I got my rough outline, my step number 3, I cut out the silhouette ready to put into my kitchen roll. So the silhouette I decided to cut out, of course, no surprises, is 2 little horses racing. I hope you can see that. They're galloping along. Now I folded my sheets of paper like this. So I traced it around there, and I just folded my sheets of paper, and I made sure that I cut out 2 of them. Because when you cut out 2, they just become a little bit stronger. And what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to stick them together so that the paper's a bit thicker and they can stand a little bit more solidly. So I'm just going to take my glue. I'm going to put glue all over my little racehorses. You don't need too much. And I'm just going to stick them together so that I get one silhouette, as you can see, of my racehorses. But now this is quite thick, so I don't need to use cardboard. This is just plain paper. Now my next step is to stick this into my toilet roll. Now this is a little bit tricky because you need to make a flap that goes around your toilet roll, because if you don't make the flap, you won't be able to stick it inside. You don't need to color this in or anything because you're going to see the end products in a minute. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on the flap. I'm going to show you a little bit more complicated one in a minute. This is a really basic one that's quite easy for you to do. So you need to then stick your silhouette into the kitchen roll like that. Make sure it's at an angle that you can see the picture clearly. Okay, so you can see that will create a silhouette, and I'm going to show you the end product in a minute. So that's the basic one. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, I have already cut it out, but it's a little boy fishing. But these flaps are a little bit more complicated. So I've used a bit of a bigger kitchen roll for the fisherman, just because I found that a little bit easier, which means that I'm going to need a few more flaps. And because there's lots of little pieces on this fisherman, you need to make sure that your flaps fit in the kitchen roll really, really neatly. Okay, so that's why when I traced around my kitchen roll to start with, this is a very, very important step so that you can get the size of your kitchen roll or your cup. Right, once again, I'm just going to put some glue on my flaps. Don't need an awful lot, but you do need enough to stick it. And it doesn't really matter where you stick your picture, as long as you can see the silhouette and it's folded properly. Because when you turn it around, anyway, you're going to see your silhouette. Right, now, the next step is really, really fun. And this is going to create a really fun silhouette when you use a torch or a light source to shine through them. So I'm going to quickly get my light ready. So I'm using a lamp that is just it can bend, and I'm just going to put a picture of it here. It's just a lamp that can move. You can also use a torch or any light source like that to create your shadow. So if you look here at the toilet roll, you will see that the fisherman is sitting perfectly in his shadow. So you need to get your toilet roll correctly in the right place, and you can see it casts a very, very cool shadow. If I want to see my horses, the same thing, you can place it just behind the light, and you can get your silhouette of your horses. Now you can make any scene that you would like to make, and as you can see, if I move the shadow around, the horses get bigger or smaller. Over there you can see the fisherman gets longer or smaller. And when you put all of these together, or a bunch of these together, you can see how effective they can look. I've now moved the table away a little bit so that the shadows are even bigger. So you can play around with the surface that your table's on, or the position of your toilet rolls to get your silhouette absolutely perfect. So after practicing how to cast your shadows, you will see this could be very, very effective in your bedroom when it's really, really dark and you just put a really subtle light on behind them. The shadows will cast beautifully in your bedroom, like as a night light or something like that. It's a really lovely way to get some light into your bedroom. I also I'm going to put up some pictures here now of some ideas of how you could make multiple of these, which means many of these, to create a scene that really makes you happy. What you could do is also do lots of different ideas. I'll put up some pictures here of maybe a sport you take part in or something that you're interested in. And every time your light shines through it, there will be a shadow cast, and I'm sure it'll make your heart really, really happy. I hope you enjoyed episode 4 and I look forward to seeing you next week. Enjoy making your kitchen roll art. Bye, Repton School.